There are two things I haven't done in a really long while: film a YouTube video and read a fantasy novel. So, today, with this reading vlog, I am solving both those problems. Hey everyone, my name is Meera. Welcome back to my channel. How have you guys been and what are you reading these days? Let me know in the comments below. Recently, Bloomsbury India sent me a review copy for the first book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. This is House of Earth and Blood, and I'm sure you've heard of it. I feel like I'm the last person to pick this book up, but I'm so glad that I'm finally doing it. I've just been craving to read a good fantasy novel, and this one is 800 pages long. So I feel like it's the perfect book to get into because I assume there will be a lot of world building, there'll be maybe new magic systems. It is an urban fantasy series about Bryce Quinlan, who is half fae and half human. She loves partying, and one day after a night of mad celebrations, when she comes home, she finds her closest friends murdered in cold blood. The culprit eventually gets caught and put behind bars, but a couple of years later, a similar series of murders are cropping up in Crescent City. So what happens is the city leaders then task her with the job of helping out in the investigation. What I already love about this book, even before starting to read it, is that it has so many different mythological creatures in it. In a lot of the fantasy fictions that I read, there will either be witches or werewolves or vampires, maybe a couple of them. But here, from what I've heard, there's at least 10, 12 different kinds of mythological creatures, and that excites me so much. I have read and really enjoyed several of Sarah J. Maas's other works, so I'm hoping that I enjoy this even more considering the length of the first book and the premise that it's set on. It's Wednesday today and the time is 12:10 p.m. I'm hoping to finish this book between today and Friday. Let's see how that goes. If you've read this book, then I would love to know your thoughts about it. I am going to try and avoid spoilers so that those of you who haven't yet picked it up can still watch this vlog and not get spoiled for any of the main plot twists or plot developments in the book. So let me take you along as I talk about my experience reading House of Earth and Blood. I hope you enjoy watching this reading vlog. It's 1:30 p.m. and I'm on page 57. No, I did not take nearly 2 hours to get through 50 pages. That's just because in the beginning of the book, like right now, my mind is reeling with all the information that's been revealed. There's a lot about the world building that has already been disclosed. And so I keep finding myself having to go back and forth between pages to refresh details in my mind about who's who and what powers they have, what kind of a creature they are. So that's taking me a while, but I feel like once I've reached maybe the 1/3 mark in the book, it'll be a lot easier for me to like digest the information. So the world building's quite intricate. There are a lot of places mentioned, a lot of different kinds of societies, if I may say so. Well, they're like houses, they're like communities of different kinds of creatures. I love the friendship between Danica and Bryce. It's just so heartwarming. There's almost a sense of them being family, and I love that in books. When there are elements of found families, friends who become so close that they are like family. As I'm reading this book, I am being reminded of why I love the genre, and I missed reading fantasy novels so much. I'm so glad that this is the one I've picked up to get back into reading it. I hope I continue to feel that way throughout the reading vlog. I don't know if I'm getting way ahead of myself and just the excitement of finally reading a fantasy fiction is getting to my head or not, but I almost want to place a bet with myself that before the end of this reading vlog, I would have ordered a copy of the next book, which is House of Sky and Breath. Those of you know me, take a guess and leave your thoughts in the comments. whether I would have ordered a copy or not. I am on page 109 and a lot more characters have also been introduced. The copy that I have is an arc, so it doesn't really have like a map or anything. I'm not sure if the final copy does, but I feel like that would have been a lot more helpful. So what I did is I was checking on Google like the names of different places that have been mentioned in the book, and I made like a small amateurish map of sorts. I'm pretty sure this is not what it is really like in terms of location and everything, but I just wanted to have like this visual reference of which continent is where and who belongs to which city. So I did that, and I've also marked out a lot of passages. If you can see, this is what the book looks like now. So far I've been referring to them as mythological creatures, but in the book they are called the Nair, who are beings apart from humans and ordinary animals. I'm done with part 1 of the book, which is where the author establishes Bryce's character, so we truly know like her motivations and her personality and who she is and what really matters to her. The second part takes place 22 months after she lost her closest friends, and that chapter was also very gut-wrenching because of how much they meant to her, and I really liked her friendship with all of them. Now in the second part, Hunt Athalar, who is like the male main character, has entered the picture. He's like a soldier who is part of the army for the governor of Crescent City. There's a lot to it, which you'll find out when you read the book, but basically he has been portrayed as this typical brooding male character, and I don't know how I feel about it. Another thing that's slightly bugging me is that after this second part has started, there's a whole lot of the portraying characters as dangerous and deadly. That happens more frequently than I would appreciate, and I'm like, can't we just have nice characters that are like rainbows and cotton candy? Why do all of them need to be like this really dangerous assassins whom everyone should steer clear of? So that I'm not particularly liking, but maybe as I get to know more about these characters, I will see them in a different light and know who they truly are. So probably this is just like the surface level introduction that all of these characters have gotten, and I'm hoping that there's more to them than that. One of the things that I really like this concept in the world building, is that of the drop, which is basically the Vanir embracing their power. So after they make the drop is when they become immortals and their lifespan gets expanded. So how that's been described in the book is something very intriguing. What's customary is that they have like a party and everything after that, because they're celebrating having come into their own. So that's something that I really like. Hey, so last night I finished reading up until page 212. This is the part where Hunt and Bryce are sort of forced to work together to figure out who the murderer is, and also come to the conclusion whether everyone's been wrong about who actually killed Bryce's friends. I don't like Hunt's character. He is so judgy. He's always referring to Bryce as, oh, she's a party girl, oh, she's such a spoiled party girl, how many coats of nail paint does she need? I'm like, dude, isn't your pretentiousness coming across a little too strongly? Like, calm down. I mean, it's not a crime to enjoy partying, right? Speaking of, there's a distinct shift in who Bryce was in part 1 of the book and who she is now. A lot of it comes from her realization of how she's lost her friends, and she's trying to be like a different person compared to then. On the flip side, even though I'm not particularly fond of Hunt Athalar at the moment, he and Bryce don't get along, so their bickering is just so entertaining to read about. Also, Rowan Danan has now become a crucial part of the story. He is Bryce's cousin and also the crown prince of the Fae court. I feel like I like his character the best so far, and I hope that in the upcoming chapters we get to read more about his backstory and that he plays like a crucial role in the plot, which I have a feeling is exactly what's gonna pan out. Today I have a little bit of work as well, so I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get done, but because there's a lot of political intrigue and the real motivations of influential characters in the book is now coming out. The pace is also picking up speed, and so I'm definitely more intrigued now that I have a better understanding of the system, the characters, different storylines, the magic system, their history, and so on. I also really like Lahaba's character, her interactions with Bryce. Those are scenes that I really enjoy reading. She's a fire sprite, and to give you a little bit more context on sprites, they are a part of the Veneers who had been kicked out because of their involvement in a rebellion. So through Lahaba's storyline as well as even Hunt's to an extent, the author brings in this element of slavery has played a crucial role in shaping the history of these various veneers. There's just a lot to observe in the book, and that's making it so fulfilling. I just wish we had all the books in the series so I could binge read them. It's 4 p.m. now and I've reached page 330, which is good progress for today because my goal is to get to page 500. There are a lot of theories being discussed about who might be involved, who has a bigger stake in everything going on. Rune has also joined the group and is working alongside Hunt and Bryce to find the murderer. I really enjoy those scenes as well because the three of them don't see eye to eye many times, and so that leads to their dynamic being even more interesting. There's a lot of snark and argument, and yeah, you get the gist. The frenemy nature of Hunt and Bryce relationship is waning a little bit. There are moments when they become almost amiable towards each other. So those of you who enjoy such tropes might be interested in where this particular plot point is heading. The Viper Queen, she's such an interesting character. I think she was there only for like a chapter, but I would definitely want to know more. And if not in this book, it would be even cool to have like a small novella that's based on the Viper Queen. I would read that. Something I hadn't mentioned earlier is that in this particular world, the humans coexist alongside the Veneer. So it's not like they're unaware and the Veneer have to use some kind of magic to be invisible, which is usually what I've read in a lot of paranormal fiction. And so I'm pleasantly surprised by how this has been written. The humans themselves have a strong history with their interactions with the Veneer because they lived on the planet Midgard before the Veneer came there. I'm gonna call it a night. I have read up until page 537, which is success because it's well over the 500 mark. So apparently the prejudice works both ways because Bryce also has this tendency to name call, in the sense that whenever Hunt does something, she keeps making these remarks. Oh, you're such a guy, that was such a guy thing to do. I don't get this kind of typecasting that goes on back and forth between both of them, and don't particularly like it either. I don't see the point of having included it there because if it was just for the sake of banter, I think there were a lot of other kind of conversations and comments that could have been passed instead of something that's very inherently stereotypical and cliched and possibly very toxic too. So I wish that hadn't been there, or at least wasn't as repetitive as it is. The plot developments now are taking on a more labyrinth-like style, in the sense that they are coming across a lot of leads, you know, in quick succession, but it ends up becoming a dead end. And I kept thinking that, oh, this would be it. They would figure out what's actually gonna happen, and then it would be like, no. Something I was very excited to read about in this section of the book is the inclusion of prophecies. So we get to know what the Oracle has said about Rune, what they've said about Hunt, and what actually happened when Bryce visited the Oracle. All of that just added a lot to pique my curiosity about where their storylines would end, and it definitely does give you some hints about what could potentially happen in the end. I am not a fan of the Bryce and Hunt situation and how their storylines are evolving together. They have nothing on Selena and Rowan from the Throne of Glass series. I don't know. Like, I get, because we have been shown their backstories and I understand who they are and all the difficulties that they've been through. Like, I empathize with them for that. But for me, both of them together just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Remember how early on in the vlog I was talking about Bryce being a different character in this part of the book? All of that becomes more vivid now because her grief is something that's so palpable. You can't help but feel sad for her because of how close she was with her friend and what it meant for her to lose such good people in her life. Just her state of mind right now it's very upsetting. To conclude my thoughts on the book today, I would just say that I still enjoy Sarah J. Maas's writing a lot. There are several factors about her books that appeal to me. One of them being that many of her protagonists and even other female characters in her books, they tend to be headstrong, brave, fiercely loyal to the people in their lives, the people, their loved ones. Even her writing is very action oriented. You will not find any of her characters being passive and waiting for things to happen to them. They all just go out there and chase what they're after. And that level of ambition and determination is something that I find very appealing. So that's it for today. I will see you guys tomorrow. Well, it's the same vlog for you, so probably not tomorrow for you, but yeah, anyway. Today is day 3 and probably the last day of the reading vlog in all likelihood, because I have less than 300 pages left and I am now even more driven to find out what's happening. In the beginning, I was wondering whether this story would warrant a 800 page novel or not, but having read so much of the book, I can see why that's the case. There is just so much more than what meets the eye about the veneer, these characters' relationships, the plot developments that occur in the beginning of the book. They take on some new form as the story progresses. So that's all very exciting. I like that the romance angle in the book is not like a separate entity. It's not like a specific focus. It's more of a natural consequence of Hunt and Bryce working together, getting to know each other's vulnerabilities, and that gradual attraction that builds between them. If it had been more of a paranormal romance novel, I don't think I would have appreciated reading this book as much, because like I mentioned last night, Hunt and Bryce are not my favorite couple. I do have my suspicions about who might be involved because of something a particular character had said early on in the book. I took that to heart, became too fixated on it, and started forming my own theories about what might have gone down. Nevertheless, my absolute favorite aspect of reading this book so far has to be the world building and the different kinds of veneer involved. I love that in any given chapter you'll find either a merman, a fire sprite, a werewolf, a witch, and just so many other different kinds of mythological creatures. So that has been a delight. And if I do end up picking up the second book, that will definitely weigh in on my decision to do so. Something just happened and oh my god, the characters in this book, they are absolutely ruthless. Sabine has now earned her spot as one of the most monstrous, horrid characters ever. She is Danika's mom, and her attitude towards parenting and Danika being her daughter and just all of that is just so despicable. She's one of like the 3 or 4 other parent figures in the book, with Ember being Bryce's mom and the Autumn King being Rune's father. And all 3 of them have like different roles to play in the book, but what's interesting to note is who they are as individuals and how that has shaped their children and who they turn out to be as they grow up. But Sabine, oh my god, I don't get it why nobody's putting her in her place. She just waltzes into rooms and demands for things to be done her way. There's more than 200 pages left, but I hope she gets what's coming for her. You've got to be kidding me. 600 pages of build up for that. There was a reason why I didn't like this particular angle in the book. Like, why can't people just communicate? Is that too much to ask for? And I am done with House of Earth and Blood. What a roller coaster of a ride that was. Chapters 81, 92 and 93 are some of the best written chapters in this book. I read them and couldn't move on for a while because I was just sitting there trying to process through all the emotions that I was feeling and everything that had just happened. It was just wildly beyond anything I could have imagined or anticipated happening towards the end of the book, that too. Really, well done, Sarah J. Maas. Those are commendably written chapters. So evocative. Before I begin wrapping up my thoughts on House of Earth and Blood, I would like to say that some of you may require trigger warnings. So be warned that there is substance abuse and suicidal ideation that is mentioned in the book. There's a point in the book where the main conflict gets resolved. This happens almost 3/4 of the way in, or maybe more than that. But anyway, after that there's like a dip in the pace. So I began wondering what would happen after this, and there is another sort of major conflict that happens afterwards. So that's something that you should definitely look forward to. It is a kick-ass portion of the book simply because of the kind of character strengths that come across and what we learn more about hidden matters. So that was great. Did not see that coming at all. As you know by now, the main premise of this novel had to do with Bryce investigating the murders and rethinking whether they had been right about who had actually killed her friends. Alongside that, there's a significant part of the plot that covers the politics of the land and the governance of all these different veneer. There's also rebellion, which is a strong driving force in the novel itself, because there are a lot of characters who believe that the way some of these veneer are treated, the way the humans are treated, is not right, and that the Asteri, the Senate, which is essentially the rulers in Midgard, they need to change their ways. So it was very interesting to see how these subplots would then kind of reinforce the work that Hunt, Bryce and Rune were doing. Now, I have already spoken about the few different factors that I didn't particularly like about this book. That said, for me, usually an ending can always redeem my reading experience of the book. There have been many times where I would be close to giving a book a 2 or a 3-star rating, and by the end of it, it would become a 4.5 or 5-star rating simply because of how the author has turned things around or what message comes across through the author's writing and so on. Basically several other reasons. So here, I love that one of the strongest elements in the novel is that it is essentially a story of courage, loyalty and inner strength. These are some aspects that come across beautifully through several characters' storylines. Stories like these matter a lot to me, and when well done, they can completely change the way I think about a book. That is not to say that I wasn't already enjoying House of Earth and Blood, I was. But even those minor instances which irked me didn't seem important enough in the grand scheme of things. When I look back at the book right now, after having read that last chapter, after having gone through all of those character stories and plot developments and all these little details about the writing and the world building, one of the quotes and essentially something that's pivotal to the story is the idea and the notion that through love all is possible. I love that. I love that this is not just a quote which the author has added in passing or for adding flavor to the novel. It is so integral to the story and is basically the author's way of reaching into the depths of human emotions, making the friendships, the relationships in this book count, making them special, and making them so persuasive that you can't but start rooting for several of these characters. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the vlog, Rune's character is one of my favorite from all the characters in this book, and I wish we had gotten to read more about him. I'm pretty sure he could have played an even more pivotal role in the novel. Lastly, I would like to see Sarah J. Maas write some male lead characters who aren't either brooding and reserved or possessive and jealous and trying to assert their dominance or assert how strong they are. There's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy reading those kinds of characters, then that's perfect. You'll definitely enjoy a lot of her works. I don't mind it either when it's done realistically and doesn't feel like a template. Also, it's something that she covers a lot in many of her works, so it would definitely be more interesting to see her write some different kinds of characters. I would be eager to read what kind of stories she can create with such characters too. So on the whole, House of Earth and Blood has an intricate world building. It has some fantastic friendships. It covers themes of equality, social status, grief, resilience considerably well, and the storytelling is convincing enough to make you invested in not just the plot but the individual character storylines as well. The book is not perfect, but I enjoyed it a great deal, and I am definitely going to be picking up House of Sky and Breath soon. So I hope you enjoyed watching this reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you've been doing great so far. I will see you soon with another video. Bye!